Today at Speedy's Garage, we're getting Go Man Go ready for a street shootout in Bowling Green, Kentucky as part of the NMCA Bluegrass Nationals. In preparation, I'm going to try some PAM. I think I mentioned that on one of my previous videos in the wheel wells to make it easier to clean when we get back home. I'm going to take my impact, lug nuts, and all the other things you've seen me take in some of my previous videos where we're headed to the track. And I'm also going to try the Plasti-Dip glossifier on the rear fenders or rear quarters instead of the Duplicolor product I used before. I think I mentioned I was going to try it, so we're going to see how it does today. Here's the other items that I'm taking. The tires have to be DOT, so I am going to take the slicks because they are, in fact, I'm going to try to show you. Here we go. DOT approved. I called and checked the people that write the rules, and they said that as long as it has a DOT stamp on it, you're good to go. I don't know that I'm going to need them for the class that I'm going to run in. I'm going to try to slow Go Man Go down just a bit and run in the 1100 class. The car normally runs 1050s or 1060s at the track, but that's with the slicks and the skinnies. So I'm gonna have to adjust the configuration a bit to slow down to make it run 1100. The idea behind this race class is you make 3 back-to-back passes and they're gonna average the 3 runs. Whoever gets closest to that index number wins that class. I got my cleanup bag. I'm gonna take some fuel with me just in case I need it. Again, I'm gonna have to do some testing, and obviously an air compressor or air tank to change tire pressure. And as you saw, I just recently put some brand new Nitto 555R tires on the back. They're the 305/35/20 on the replica 10.5-inch wide wheels in brass monkey color to match the car. So I'm hoping these will do okay. The idea is to try to get a 1.8 or 1.7 60-foot with these, and the real deal is to try to get consistent. So I'm hoping with them being brand new, I'll lower the air pressures down at the track and see how we can do with them. I normally run the slicks, so I'm hoping for a good day tomorrow, being Friday. That's the test and tune day, to kind of dial the car in. The weather's looking a little sketchy, so if I can get 2 or 3 passes, I think I can figure out what I need to know to make the car consistent. And if you're going to run an event like this, you need to make sure you understand the rules for the class that you're planning to run in. Racing rules aren't lenient at all. They're written for a reason, and the event organizers expect participants to read them and understand them. So for this, we're looking at the rules here. This is the Dodge Mopar Hemi Shootout. It describes the class. They're going to have a quickest time award, but then they're also breaking it down into 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 1500 classes. Each class winner must fall within its respective ET category. For example, 9-second winner must average between 9 and 9.99, etc., etc. They're saying reaction time is not part of the run, that it's literally just the average of the 3. Pro tree, heads up, courtesy stage. Talks about what vehicles are permitted, the body rules. Let's see what else have they got in here. I'm taking Go Man Go, which is pretty well just a stock Hellcat, so all of this wasn't a big deal for me. All I had to do was pay attention to the tires. You come down and they also talk about street equipment. You need a driver's license, registration, valid license plate, and they're saying they require an ID card. I have mine on the phone, but I'm actually going to print it out just so I avoid any problems. And they call out faxes and letters from insurance companies and brokers are not acceptable. So pay attention to that kind of stuff. Those little details are what can hang you up when you get to an event like this. And here's where they call out the tires: DOT radials or DOT slicks on front and rear of vehicle. I'm not aware of a DOT slick. There may be one out there. If you know, leave me a comment below. I'd be interested in checking that out. Hood is required, may be made of lightweight material, blah, blah, blah. Performance aftermarket OEM style functioning driver and passenger seats. So you can't come with a stripped out car. So I've literally got the car just pretty much standard as it came from the factory, other than I'm going to run drag radials on the back, and of course my drive shaft for safety. Here we go. After all 3 quarter-mile passes are completed, each racer's ET will be added together and divided by 3. The average of the 3 passes will be computed. The outcome of the 3-run average will be posted after the final run on Saturday, and the awards presentation will be held Saturday. So we'll know who won the classes. So that should be pretty interesting. I think it's going to be fun. I like these kind of street events like this because they're meant for street cars for the most part, and not just race cars, and that's really right up my alley. So now we're going to go get Go Man Go ready to rock and roll. So I got the fender taped up. I'm going to put a light coat of the glossifier on there, just 1 light coat, and then I'll do 3 or 4 medium wet coats to make it thick. I think you guys saw before how I showed you how to put this kind of stuff on. Okay, I learned something on the last go round that I wanted to share. When you put your last coat on, and there are 5 coats on this, make sure to peel your tape up away from the edge while the last coat is still tacky and wet. I waited until it dried and the material actually peeled up a little bit on the edges away from the car, and as you can see with it wet, it's coming off on a pretty nice clean line, which is what you want. And you can barely tell it's there, which is the goal, obviously. So there's the finished product. So I think it's obvious that the Plasti Dip glossifier is going to work. Just take your time peeling the tape off. If it starts to snag or starts to pull, use a razor blade or something to just kind of clip the edge of it where it's peeling away, and be careful obviously not to scratch your paint, and then continue to peel the tape off and you'll get a nice clean finish just like that. And we definitely can't forget our transportation for in the pits. So normally I would just pack all this stuff in the back of Go Man Go, but Mrs. Speedy wanted to take a separate vehicle just in case she wanted to go shopping, or if there was a delay at the track, she could go back to the hotel and do whatever she wanted to do. So because of that, we're going to load all this up in our support vehicle, which is Project Sport Runner, which some of you have seen on the channel. So you saw the tires and the funnel, we got our air tank, some fuel on the other side, and then of course our pit transportation. And we're packed up and pretty much ready to go. Okay, so we're headed up to Bowling Green for this NMCA Bluegrass Nationals event. Pretty excited about it. The weather is still a little bit sketchy. It's overcast, but not raining. As long as it doesn't rain, we'll be in good shape, so fingers crossed. So regardless of what the weather does, we're just going to go up here and have a good time no matter what. It'll be good to see some other Mopars out there going down the track. I'm curious to see who all shows up. Should be a pretty fun event. Like I said before, it's a street car event that I'm entering. There's going to be other racing classes, quite a few actually. They've got another one that I think goes all the way down to maybe 8 or 9 seconds, and it's the same requirements. They do a 30-mile drive. They require you to go straight from the 30-mile drive to the staging lanes and wait. They have like some kind of cool down period. I think it's a 30-minute cool down before the racing actually starts, and once it starts you have to pull right back around to the staging lane, so that'll be exciting to watch. I'm curious to see how fast some of those street cars actually are. And this particular event isn't just for Mopar. It just happens to be a Mopar race class that I'm entering, but it's for all brands. There's going to have they're having a nostalgia class. It's Chevy, Ford, Dodge, pretty much everything, I believe. I don't know if there's imports. I didn't see that mentioned. I think it's mainly American muscle type cars, but really curious to see what all shows up. I'll be sure to take a lot of footage so you guys can kind of experience it with me. So I'm here at the Kentucky Visitor Center waiting for Mrs. Speedy to catch up. I guess we got a little lead-footed in Go Man Go this morning. Well, there she is. She finally caught up. Okay, so we've hopped off the exit here in Bowling Green. We're almost to the track, about 4 or 5 miles away, and I've been thinking about it on the drive up. I want to go at this with a little bit of a game plan and not just willy-nilly. So I'm running the car in a little bit different configuration than I normally do. I like the slicks on the back typically because they're more forgiving on a track that might not be prepped or not prepped very well. Drag radials, you can use them at the track successfully, but usually you need some pretty good track prep to go with it. With this being a pretty good size event, I'm hoping that's the case, but with it being a street car class, you never know, so there's no guarantees. I'm going to play with the tire pressures a little bit and run the car with the factory front tires and wheels on it for some extra weight to see if that slows us down enough. Normally the car will run 1050s or 1060s with the slicks on it. Drag radials are probably not going to 60 foot as good as those, so that'll slow it down some. We'll try the factory front tires and wheels for the weight, see where we end up. If I'm not there, if I'm running too slow, I'll add some race fuel, 109 unleaded, to see how that does, if that impacts the times at all. And then if that doesn't get me where I need to be, I'll put the skinny DOT tires up front. They are legal. They say DOT on the side. That's the requirement. They're the M&H Race Masters. That'll lighten up the car quite a bit, and rotational mass will be less. So we'll try that and see if we can't get to that 11.00. So 3 runs. If you run a 1110, let's say 11.10, an 11 flat, and let's say a 1095, and you average those together, you're right at 11.0. And I did confirm the rules with the event organizer. You can run lower than your index and not be disqualified as long as the average of the 3 runs isn't under the index. If my average runs under the index, I get dropped into the 10.0 class, which I'd have had to sped the car up quite a bit to get there, and it's much easier to slow it down. So wish us luck, and we'll see how we do. here's our first pass at the Hemi Shootout Bluegrass Nationals. Shooting for 11.0, so we got just a little bit of tweaking to do to dial it in and we should be good. I'm car number 505 and I'm pretty happy with that 168 60 foot from those 555Rs. The track prep seemed pretty good as well. So I've hooked up the Trinity, checking our data log after our pass, and now I know what we need to do to try to get that extra tenth. Well, unfortunately, we had about a 2-hour rain delay. The good news is it lowered the temperature about 15 degrees. The bad news is it obviously doused the track with water, so they had to spend a couple of hours cleaning it up. They're getting back to the program now, so we're waiting our turn to make that second qualifying run, shooting for that 11.0 that we're looking for. Okay, here's our second run. Again, I'm 505. So we ran the tires at 1 PSI lower this time. It was 18 PSI instead of 19 like it was before as a test. I think I overdid the burnout a little bit. The 60 foot wasn't quite as good. The previous run it was 1.68. This time it's 1.71. The important thing though is we're in another 11.1, 11.13. I still want to drop that a tenth if I can. So we may try a couple of more things. I'm probably going to run the car in the same config tomorrow on the first pass and then make some adjustments from there for passes 2 and 3, but that's where we ended up. And this is Pro Tree. The lady next to me, look at her reaction time. I mean, she took off and smoked me. I couldn't believe it. Awesome reaction time there for Pro Tree, I think.
Can I get a ride?
So it's race day. We're headed back to the track. We ran a couple of 11.12 and 11.13 yesterday. The goal is 11.00 as I mentioned. So we got just a little bit of tweaking we're going to try to do. I've got a plan. I'm going to run the car in the same configuration for the first pass. Might try a little bit of weight reduction on the second to see what happens if the first pass is the same as yesterday with another 11.1. And then our silver bullet are our skinnies that we've got in the Project Sport Runner support vehicle back there with Mrs. Speedy. So if I have to, at the end of the day, my third run, I'll put those skinnies on. I would expect those to shave maybe 2 or 3 tenths, we'll see. And if I run under 11.00, it'll just fall into that average, and I think we'll be right on the money. So wish us luck. Well, we're here at the track, and unfortunately, even though there was a very small chance of rain today, it went from like 80% to 60% to 30% to like 7%, yet it is raining at the track. I look at the radar and there's just a green bubble of rain right where we are. So hopefully it'll blow out of here, but that means we're on rain delay, and that kind of sucks because it's eating up all of our time. Okay, the rain moved out and the NMCA and Beach Bend track workers worked hard to drive the track, and so we're back to our racing program. We should be up, I think, 3 classes. We'll start making our passes. So we're still on the money. Very consistent. We just got to speed up by a tenth. That's the problem. This is it. Fingers crossed. Looking at that 11.00. We're probably going to be 11.1. We may have to switch out some tires when we get back. So we got a plan. It is hot. Woo! 11.10. That's what we're looking for. Gonna whittle it down. That was our first pass that counted. 11.10, 1.68 60 foot.
So before they go out on the cruise.
All right, so they called us right back up. We were supposed to not go again for a bit. We had parked the car, and then they called us right back up. So, car's nice and hot now. We'll see how we do. So that one wasn't so good. We had a 1.8 60 foot. I had to get out of it. Car was hot because they hot lapped us, and we were at 11.4. So I got some time to make up now. Here we go, last pass. We put our skinnies on. We're gonna have to run like a 10.7 or 10.8, I think, to get our average down where we need it to be. So, got some work to do for sure. That felt pretty good. That felt pretty good. Thank you. All right, so we're in 11.05. 11.05. I don't know if that was enough to get us there or not. 11.05. So we're headed back to Nashville after a successful event at the NMCA Bluegrass Nationals in Bowling Green, Kentucky. I was actually able to pull off the win in the 11.0 index class. Like I said, I had to slow the car down just a bit, so worked on a few things, and at the end of the day, I had a bad run. I had an 11.4, so I had run 11.1s all weekend, even in testing. A couple of the first pass that we made was an 11.12, I think. That second run, they hot lapped us, and it caught me off guard because I thought we had a little bit of a break. The schedule was a little weird. They handed out a paper schedule, like I mentioned. It didn't match what the actual schedule was. We had to go up to the registration tent or trailer, and they had it hanging in a glass case and go find out the real schedule. So I was actually pulling back to the pits after picking up Miss Speedy on the cooler, and everybody was saying, hey, they called us right back up. So the car was hot, literally jumped in the car, kind of off guard, ran back up there, and almost immediately pulled back on the track and made another pass. The car itself, I got to check the data log. I think the car itself, cooling wise, was okay. I think what happened is the tires were hot, and I tried to do just a small, quick burnout, but I still think I got them a little bit too greasy because it was about the only run of the day where I got any tire spin, and my 60 foots went from a 1.6 to a very low 1.7 to a mid 1.8 on that particular run, and it ended up resulting in like an 11.44, I think, or 11.46 pass. So that screwed up my average a little bit. So now I had one chance that third run to make up some time. So I basically swung for the fences. I put the skinnies on, let the car cool down, I iced the supercharger, ran the cool down mode using the burn box, everything I could possibly do to run as fast as I could on that third run to bring my average back in line, and I ran 11.05. So mission accomplished. I was hoping for a 1090 or a 1080, but the DA was like 25 or 2800, like I said, and it just wasn't in the cards with the drag radials and whatnot. But that 11.05 brought my average down to 11.209. And I felt pretty good about that. I would rather it have been 11.1 something, but doing everything we could do, that I was pretty happy with that. There was a couple of other cars in that class. One of them was kind of out of the running. I don't know about the fourth one, but the second car was another Hellcat, the one that was closest to me, and I had to keep an eye on. It was a female driver, and she was very, very good. We actually lined up a couple of times during the course of either test and tune or the actual races. And while I would run just a tick faster than her, like she might run an 11:21 and I would run an 11:13 or 11:12, 11.12 or 11.13, and she would run an 11.21 for example. Her reaction times were blistering fast compared to mine. I mean, it was a pro tree, so you get 3 yellows and a green. It's like ding, and then green comes on. And that caught me off guard. I've been practicing and I'm very used to sportsman trees, so I've got to do some more practicing on the pro tree to get used to that too. But man, by the time I saw the green light, I'm already looking at the back of her car. And you know, when you have similar powered cars like that, if they get out on you, you're not going to be able to catch them. And so I would basically just chase her down the track. So we raced twice, and both times her reaction time was about half of what mine was. I would get a 0.4 or a 0.5 something reaction time, and hers would be a 0.2. And she could replicate that time and time again, it seemed. At least when she raced me, she did. So she had obviously done some practicing and was a pretty good racer. Her and her husband took it very seriously. They had a little box of stuff that they got out and were checking weather conditions and making notes, and he had like a grid where he was saying what he ran with certain tire pressures and all kinds of stuff. So they were pretty serious about it. At the end of the day, you know, she knew we were really close. She kind of stopped telling me what her times were. I would ask her how she did, and she would say we ran pretty good. And so I think she was a little worried, you know, that I might go make a change and put her out of the running or something like that. And so when I ran that 11.4, I really had to get after it in order to keep up with her, because I knew her average was going to be 11.20 something. And so I had to try to beat that. So long story short, I ran 11.209. It rained a little bit in the morning yesterday, and so it delayed the track about 2.5 hours. And then of course you have breakages and things like that on some of those pro mod cars and things, and they had to get the tow truck out a couple of times, so that delayed things. So the event was supposed to end right about 6 o'clock. Well, we didn't get into the awards until about 9. So everybody was pretty tired, hungry, you know, so we're kind of sitting around waiting. They do the awards, and the event organizers, I get it. You know, you guys know I organize Challenger Fest, so it's a lot of stress, especially when you have an event of that size. So they get up there, and I think they made a slight mistake. They called her up at the 11.0 index class as the winner. And I thought, oh wow, she must have pulled something off on her third run, because I didn't actually get to see it. Well, I heard them call her time as 11.23. And I thought, okay, I knew I had run, my average was 11.20, so I thought, okay, fine, I'll, you know, kind of see what's what after the awards. You know, I try to have a little bit of class about it, right? I don't want to like immediately jump up and start questioning things. She was ecstatic, so she jumps out of her chair screaming. She was super excited, so not to take anything away from her, she was a vicious competitor. So I decided to wait and just see what happened. Well, they called me up as runner-up, and I didn't even realize there was an award for runner-up. So they called me up there and give me the runner-up plaque. Both winner and runner-up actually had the same cash payout, so not really anything to lose there. So get down to the winner's circle. We're doing our pictures with our cars and all that good stuff. I kind of pulled the organizer to the side and I said, hey man, was the goal to run as close to 11, your index, you know, whatever your index was, mine was 11.00, as possible without any other consideration? Was reaction time a consideration or anything else, mile per hour, period? He says, no, it was just to get as close as you could to your index. And I said, well, you called out the winner at 11.23. And he says, yeah. And I said, then you called me up as runner-up at 11.20. And he even announced my time during the awards when he was handing it out. He said 11.209. And he kind of got a look on his face like, oh, crap. And I said, yeah. I said, I think I actually won that. And he goes, you did. And he goes, we mixed up the cards. And I went, he goes, let's go talk to her. And I said, nope, we're not going to do that. I said, the cash payouts are the same. He told me to reach out to him after the event, and they would try to get me an updated plaque that had, you know, winner on it. Not going to take hers away. I mean, technically, she beat me twice on the track on that reaction time, so hats off to her. I think her name was Jenny, and I think they were from Michigan. I'm not 100% sure. Hope to come across them again at another event. They were super nice folks, and it was nice to see a female out there that really knew what she was doing. I mean, I like seeing that kind of stuff, and that kind of gets out of that chest thumping thing you see a lot of times on TV, and it shows that you can make it a family event. Her husband ran in an open comp class, so he drove their car in that, and she ran in the Hemi shootout, which I thought was kind of cool. I'm trying to get Mrs. Speedy to start doing some of this stuff with me, but she's not really into the car thing as much as I am. Obviously, she goes and supports me, and you know, she'll go a couple of times a year, but I don't know that I'll ever get her in a car to drag race. I wish I could, but you don't want to force something on somebody that they're not really interested in. So with that, all in all, a really fun event. I wish the weather had been just a little bit cooler. It was It's 87 degrees out right now and about 50% humidity. I think the heat index is either close or over 100. Because we raced in the Hemi Street Shootout, or Hemi Shootout I think is what they called it, they opened up a class for us today, which is Sunday, that we could race in again for free, which was awesome. That was through Dodge. So I could have gone back to the track today and raced, and the weather's pretty nice right now other than just being hot. But honestly, after Friday and Saturday at the track in that heat, I just don't have it in me. I am worn out, sunburned. It's part of drag racing. You got to get used to that kind of thing. I believe there's another cash payout, and this was going to be an index race where you could literally write your time on your window that you wanted to run and then just try to hit as close to it as you could. And as long as you kept winning rounds, you kept pulling back around. And I don't know if it was a winner take all or a first, second, and third, or what the deal was. They never really told us about it until the award ceremony, and said that Sunday they were going to open up another index class just for the Hemi Shootout folks so that they could get into the action on Sunday. A lot of other people traveled a lot farther than I did, so I'm sure they stuck around to do that. So I'll try to find some information online to kind of see how it worked out. But we're headed home. We're whooped and tired. So if you liked what you saw, be sure to hit subscribe in the bottom right-hand corner, and don't forget to check out my website, www.speedysgarage.net, for more information. We'll see you out there.